Hi, I'm Caitlin and welcome to the Lit Review. Today we're doing my best books of 2020 video. So I don't have a ton of books to share with you today. I know a lot of people like to do like 20 best in 2020 or like really theme it to the year. I didn't even make it to 10. So I don't even have like a nice rounded sounding number for you. I have 8. 5 stars are kinda rare on this channel. Not super rare, but kinda rare. To be clear, not all of these books are 5 stars. Not all of my 5-star ratings made it to the best of 2020. When I talk about what the best books of the year for me are, I think about the books that I can't let go of. Like, my brain is still thinking about them. They cracked me open on the inside and like changed me in some way, shape, or form. And so like they made an impact. So I think of this maybe not as like best books, although for me they were a personal best, but for me they were the most impactful things I read all of last year. It's a whole mix of genres, it's a whole mess of stuff. So let's get into it and let's see what books made an impact on me in 2020. I think if you have been watching my videos since I started, none of these are going to come as a shock to you. Like, there are no sleeper hits for me. When I look at this stack of 8 books, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I haven't been able to stop talking about any of these since I read them, so sure. But the first one I'd like to share with you today is The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. So this was the year that I picked up Renee Ahdieh. Like, she's not new in the book world. She's been around for a couple of years, but this was my first year reading any of her work, and I gotta say, I'm a big fan. Like, I love the way this woman writes. And I think The Wrath and the Dawn as a singular book is one of the best things I read all year. I love the Scheherazade retelling. I love retellings in general. She did such a good job turning the tropes of that book on its head, of giving the characters a really interesting backstories, and her writing and the way that like the magic in this world works was so good. I am a massive fan. I even did a video where I did my makeup inspired by this book cover, and when I was allowed to buy books, I specifically tracked down this book cover because I originally checked this book out from the library. It was just a really big one for me. I did also read the sequel, The Rose and the Dagger, this year, but I have to say the first one is just the best for me. The second one, read it because you'll want to know what happens at the end of book 1, but like the first one is where it's at. And again, I'm just kind of grabbing these off of the stack, and this should also not come as a surprise, but one of the best books I read this year was How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. So I did some anti-racism reading in general, but if you are looking for where to start in your own anti-racism reading journey, or just want like a refresher, this is the book I would think you should pick up. I really connected with the way that Ibram X. Kendi communicates as a person, as a writer. Like, it resonated with me really strongly, and the way that he speaks from personal experience, but then lets those ideas grow into much broader context, is how I love to learn and communicate myself. It's part of why I'm such a talker on this channel. And I just think this is one of the best books I have read on my own personal journey to understand and to listen better and to be a better ally and accomplice in this. So like, I loved this book. This was a 5-star read for me. I want to read more of his work, and I also just really love how this whole book is framed and how it progresses. I just think it's one of the best. That's all I guess I really need to say. And then I finally caved this year on something I've been resisting for many years, and that is Brandon Sanderson. So I read Mistborn back in November and loved it, was totally captivated by it. I'm currently, Well of Ascension, book 2 in the series, is on my January TBR, so we'll TBD on how that goes. But I really loved Sanderson's world building. I got so unexpectedly connected to Vin as a character. If you are unfamiliar, if you somehow have not stumbled onto a corner of booktube that loves Brandon Sanderson. The Vin is a 16-year-old girl who discovers that she has the gift of allomancy, which is where you can burn metaphysically these different types of metals to get different powers. and she discovers that she is mistborn, which means that unlike the average allomancer, she can control all of those metals. And she meets Kelsier, who himself is a mistborn, and he kind of convinces her to join this crew, this group of people who are taking on one of the biggest heists and just events that's ever been attempted. So this was really dynamic storytelling, really cool world building and magic, even though the idea of burning metals after you swallowed them sounds bonkers to me as a magic system. He makes it work. He makes it make sense. And just really felt intellectually satisfied as well as emotionally satisfied with this book, which I think is a really cool combination that I don't always get to the depth that I do with Mistborn. So best book, one of the best books of 2020 for me. And then I think it will come as no surprise that for me, this was also the year of Talia Hibbert. I read Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and I then also read Take a Hint, Dani Brown, the second book in this Brown Sisters series. I am anxiously awaiting the third book, but the first book to me is just everything I've ever wanted from a contemporary romance, I think. It's just so good. I care about these characters so much, to the point that like months after having finished this, I still think about them. I still hope they're doing okay. You know, like I still care about these characters on just a whole different level than I care about the average character from any book, regardless of whether it's romance or not. I also just really connected with the way Talia Hibbert moves her characters through the world, like the depths of emotions that she gives them and like the conversations that she has about mental health in her novels, which has been pretty consistent through what I've read of hers, but like, oh, I love it. I treasure it. I hate that I am probably adding to somebody's peer pressure or like overwhelming sense of hype for this book, but for me it really did. It clicked in and it was one of my favorite reads of 2020. Now for a book that totally took me by surprise. I was anticipating hating it because I am such a chicken and I don't do horror very well, but I read Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and I still think about this book all the dang time. Like, I think about Noemi as a main character all the time. I think about the setting in 1950s Mexico City and like the aesthetic. I was about to say a really big spoiler, so sorry about that. I'm zipping these lips. So this is kind of a slow burn horror thriller kind of vibe, where our main character, Noemi, who is very much a socialite in the 1950s. She's a very glamorous woman, but she is kind of tasked by her father to go check on her cousin that they haven't really seen since she was married. And she's been sending very strange letters to the family. And so he just kind of was like, go check on her. And so when Noemi does, she finds that this place is very weird, and she has very strange interactions, both with her cousin as she's trying to ascertain whether she's okay, but with like the family that lives in this decrepit house. It's also a novel that takes on themes of like colonialism and identity and like the importance of culture and history, and it's just all so subtly done. Like the themes in this, I have not been in a literature classroom in like 8 or 9 years. This is the kind of book that you could dissect in a classroom and get so much deeper themes out of this. It's fantastic. I definitely want to read more Silvia Moreno Garcia in 2021, but Mexican Gothic is definitely one of the best books that I've read in 2020. It's kind of surprising to me that a couple of different nonfictions ended up on this list, although it really shouldn't be, because I really read some impactful nonfiction this year, more so than I have read in any year past. But one of the big ones for me was Becoming by Michelle Obama. Now, I will say that I listened to the audiobook when I read this for the first time. I bought the book because this is a treasure. Like, reading this book meant so much to me that I A, wanted to give the woman my money, B, wanted to have a physical copy to flip through when I need it. because I just, not only hearing her story and being inspired by the kind of woman that Michelle Obama is and continues to be, like learning more about her and her personal life journey was amazing. She also gives some really impactful life advice throughout. And for me and the journey that I was taking in 2020, I needed to hear her say those things very, very much. I've said a lot when I mentioned this book about how important it was for me to hear Michelle Obama talk about pivoting and what she calls swerving in this book, and how sometimes she was really afraid to make some of those big pivots, and how that was intimidating for her, but she had to do it. She just knew that she had to do it for whatever reason, and there are multiple different points where she has to make those pivots and decisions. But she inspired me with the way she thinks about those things and with the way she lived those events to make big choices and big changes in my own life, and to know that it was okay, to know that I was not wrong or weird or just making a mistake. She gave me that comfort. That is not why she wrote this book, but it is one of the unintended impacts of it. And so I think if you are, no matter what you're going through, if you are feeling lost or that you are on the precipice of a big decision that scares you, I think there's comfort here. I think there's a lot of compassion and knowledge and love and comfort in this book, and anger and sadness and a lot of other things. It's just such a good human book. I don't read a ton of biographies. It really has to be written compellingly for me to grab on. This is one of the most compelling biographies I've ever read. Full stop. If she makes another book or if she writes another book, I'm going to buy that too. So this is one that I actually read in January of 2020. So the fact that it's stuck with me this long is really impressive. But We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faizal. So this is an Owl Crate edition, but that cover is so pretty. And this is totally why I picked it up in the first place, was that the cover was really drawing me in. But I just loved this. This is a debut novel, and Hafsa Faizal is now kind of like an insta-lock for me. I believe the second book in this series comes out January 19th. So the next time I can buy books, I will be buying that in hardback, which is a big deal for me. I don't like to buy hardbacks, but actually, I think that's a really good point to make. I am not necessarily a huge hardback purchaser, but of these 8 books that I have in front of me, 4 of them are hardbacks, which means that I was motivated to buy these books and was interested enough to buy or receive these books, because this is an Owl Crate book, that I was willing to deal with the hardback, and they still have a very valued place on my shelves. But We Hunt the Flame is a YA fantasy. It's got some tropes that I love, like disguise, gendered disguise. So Zafira disguises herself as a man to hunt for her village, because there's this really kind of mysterious decay, I'll say. Like, it's not decay in like an actual physical sense, but weird stuff keeps happening throughout the land, and there's a mysterious dark forest that not many people can successfully go into, because there's some evil or dark magic deep in that forest that takes people and does not let them out. Zafira is one of the few people that can traverse the forest, and so she disguises herself as this hunter, and she helps feed her village. But word of her abilities spreads to the point that the ruler of her kingdom basically asks her to go on this journey, without knowing that she is a woman, asks her to go on this journey to get this mysterious artifact to help fight the problems that this kingdom is having. So that is just like the absolute bare bones description of this, because it becomes so much more in depth. She's joined on this journey by an assassin prince and a couple of other important key figures. But I don't want to say too much more beyond that, because I think anything else that I give you about the plot is super spoilery. But I am very much looking forward to getting to book 2 of this. I really, really love the magic system and the characters that are in this book, and it really stuck with me. So, one of the best books of 2020. And then You'll be shocked to know, shocked I say, that one of the 8 best books for me in 2020 is none other than House of Earth and Blood, aka Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. I am an unabashed Maas stan. Yeah, I don't actually think I need to justify that further. I really want to reread it in 2021 because it is a game changer for me. I will never forget reading this book. It's a very slow start, like the first 100 to 200 pages. It's just like a lot of development and backstory. And then buckle your seatbelts because after that you are not going to want to get off that ride. It's so good. There's a specific scene that I can't even really mentally focus on for too long, or else I'll start crying. I'm deeply invested in the Bryce Hunt dynamic, even though I know that Sarah J. Maas is not famous for letting the first romantic attachment be the last romantic attachment. So I'm scared, but also just, I love this book so much. I will never forget reading this for the first time, being on the couch and just absolutely like sobbing. Not even just like the soft tears that sometimes happen when you read an emotional scene, but like body heaving sobbing to the point where Jeremy came in and was like, "Are you okay?" Like, "No, I'm not, but it's fictional, so it's fine." And I just proceeded to cry for like the last 200 pages. No regrets. I also think, again, I'm a sucker for good cover design. It's not gonna make me love a book when there's nothing in the pages itself to make me love it, but I just think this is some of the most gorgeous cover art. Impatiently awaiting what comes next. So those are my 8 books of 2020 that were the best or had the most impact on me as a person. And they all hit different in really specific ways. Most of these probably didn't come as any surprise to you, but hopefully there were still some good recommendations for you in here, or like just good justifications why they're there. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments below what some of your favorites for 2020 were. I'd love to hear what made an impact on you. So thank you for spending some time with me. I hope you have a fantastic reading day. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of me or this channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!